Josh, are we live? There we go.
Should be good to go.
All right. Well, hello and welcome to the Kentucky Commission on Women's Conversations with Commissioners. I'm Kentucky's Lieutenant Governor, Jacqueline Coleman, and as Lieutenant Governor, I am also a member of the Commission on Women. The Kentucky Commission on Women was established in 1968 by Governor Louis Nunn by executive order and became an official state agency in 1970 through legislative action. After a period of dormancy, the commission was reactivated by Governor Beshear when he charged me with revitalizing it. Over the past several years, the commission has reestablished itself as the state agency whose mission is to strengthen, empower, and elevate women and girls in Kentucky. Our commissioners are an incredible and diverse group of women from all corners of the Commonwealth, and some of them are here with us today. So due to time constraints, I'm not going to go through all of the commissioners' names, but if you're here, thank you for joining us. Conversations with Commissioners is a live streamed virtual conversation between commissioners and guests to explore a topic or a theme we feel is important to the women in the Commonwealth. We invite special guests who are knowledgeable or experts in the area to present information, and when time permits, we open it up for questions from the commissioners. The theme, the guest, and our commissioner host change with each conversation. Today's topic is Women Veterans Day. While many people know what Veterans Day is about, many do not know that June 12th is recognized as Kentucky Women Veterans Day each year, which is today. So our host today is Dr. Patty Minter. Patty served in the General Assembly from 2019 to 2023 when she was first elected in 2018 to represent Bowling Green's District 20 in the House of Representatives. She became the first woman from Warren County elected to the General Assembly in its history. As a professor of history at Western Kentucky University, Patty has served as the elected faculty regent on the WKU Board of Regents from 2007 to 2014, and she has received countless awards from University Award for Outstanding Public and University Service in 2016 and the Bowling Green Warren County Human Rights Commission Women of Achievement Award in 2018. For her legislative work on capping the cost of insulin, she was named as one of the Kentucky Gazette's notable women in Kentucky politics and government for 2022 and was honored as a healthcare hero by the Foundation for a Healthy Kentucky. In 2023, Governor Andy Beshear appointed her to the commission, and we are so lucky to have her with us today. Before I hand it over to Patty, I want to note that the views expressed in today's presentation or in any material shared today are those of the speakers and not necessarily of the Commission on Women or the administration, and their presence does not constitute or imply an endorsement of their views. All that said, I will now hand it over to today's host, who is perfect for this conversation as a history professor, Patty Minter, to kick us off with our conversation on Kentucky Women Veterans Day. Patty?
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor, for the opportunity to host today's episode of Conversations with Commissioners. And thank you for that very gracious introduction. It is an honor to be able to host a conversation today on this live stream that began when I was in the legislature. And as a history professor, I always want to go back and look at the past and talk about why this issue is significant to me. In February of 2020, while I was serving as state representative from Bowling Green's House District 20, one of my committee assignments is I served on VMAP, which is Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Protection Committee. And three women who then worked for the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs, or KDVA, came to me and asked me if I would advocate for their cause. And their cause was that they wanted Kentucky to become the next state to enact a bill recognizing June 12th as Women Veterans Day. And I introduced House Bill 318 to create Women Veterans Day in Kentucky to recognize the service and sacrifice of nearly 25,000 women veterans living in the Commonwealth. It passed the House with a unanimous vote. Through official proclamation, Governor Andy Beshear established Kentucky Women Veterans Day in 2020, and we celebrate that today. But the history of Women Veterans Day is longer. Today is the 78th anniversary of the Women's Armed Services Integration Act of 1948. And this happened when Harry S. Truman was president, and it officially and permanently permitted women to serve as regular members of the U.S. Armed Forces, which was desperately needed as the Cold War was ramping up, and we continued to have active duty personnel all over the world to fight against communism. So, 78 years ago, we began this tradition. So I wanted to say to our panelists and to all the women veterans in Kentucky or who are watching this, happy Women's Veterans Day to you all, and happy 78th anniversary. So to get to the present, according to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, women veterans are the fastest growing group in our veteran population, and more than 2.1 million women veterans live in the United States today. And I am very honored to be on this live stream with 3 of those women veterans today, all of whom are serving the Commonwealth and their fellow veterans in important ways. So I'm going to introduce all 3 of our panelists in order, and then you'll have an opportunity to hear from them. So first, it is my honor to introduce my fellow commissioner from the Commission on Women, Lieutenant Colonel retired Terry Owens. Colonel Owens is a distinguished Army veteran, a community advocate, and nonprofit leader with 3 decades of military service in the United States Army Medical Department. Colonel Owens is a recipient of the Legion of Merit, the Bronze Star Medal, Combat Action Badge, and Parachutist Badge, and she has dedicated her career to leadership, public service, education, and supporting future generations through community engagement and scholarship initiatives. She is serving her 3rd term on the Radcliffe City Council, and currently, Colonel Owens is running to be the next mayor of Radcliffe. Our second panelist is Dina Parrott, who serves as the Women Veterans Program Coordinator at KDVA, and she served for 25 and a half years as an active duty airman in the United States Air Force. Her Air Force specialty code was cyber support, and she served in many locations, a few within NATO in Germany, at the Pentagon, in Okinawa, Japan, and she was deployed to Afghanistan, Kuwait, and Qatar. Sergeant Parrott retired out of Cannon Air Force Base from the Special Operations Communications Squadron as an E-8 Senior Master Sergeant in 2019. And she currently serves as the Women Veterans Program Coordinator for the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs. And our final panelist today is Adelaide, or Addie Maddox, who is U.S. Army retired Sergeant E-8, a 24-year Army veteran, and a 32-year retiree from Toyota Motor Manufacturing. Sergeant Maddox is director and volunteer of Lady Veterans Connect. And while when serving our country, her highest military award was the Meritorious Service Medal, the Good Conduct Medal, Army Commendation Medal, and many other awards. For her work on behalf of women veterans, she was named as the 2025 Epilepsy Foundation Woman Veteran of the Year. So please join me in welcoming these distinguished women veterans to our live cast. I'm going to lead off with a couple of prepared questions, but starting with Colonel Owens, I'd like for each of our panelists to first tell us about yourselves and tell us what being a woman veteran means to you. So please, Colonel Owens, if you'll start us off.
Yes. Hello again to everyone. Being a veteran of 30 years, I started out like a lot of my peers who were first, and then later on through some accession journey became commissioned officers. So I got to see from the low end to the high end, and I think that's what makes a lot of us, stronger. Diversity.
looks like you're having a little trouble with your bandwidth. Colonel, can you hear us?
Large force model that typically to the whole ordeal of doing our hair. I think I can hear you. I think it's going in. Can you hear me now?
Can hear you now, yes.
So
And
I'll go slower.
you may need to go off camera in order to make sure that we can hear you, which I hate that, but maybe we try that.
Let me come out of the room and come back in.
Okay, all right. While Colonel Owens is coming in and out of our Zoom room, Sergeant Parrott, would you like to go ahead and begin?
Yeah, so I'm Dina Parat, and I'll tell you a little bit about me. As my whole career was the military, so I joined in 1994. It's the only job I've ever performed. I enjoyed it. So fast forwarding to becoming a veteran, what it means to me is that I am responsible for those who come behind me, those who are serving now, to be able to help them into veteran status. When I retired out, it was very scary, I will say, not knowing where to go, what to do, and where I fit in the community. So I feel like it's my responsibility to grab hold of the women who are coming out of service and helping them along, making sure that they understand they have a group of women veterans who are around and ready to support them and help ease their transition into the civilian world. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And again, forgive me, Parat, Sergeant Parat.
It's all good.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, Sergeant Maddox, if you'd like to share your story with us.
Yes, hi, and thank you for having me on today. I appreciate it. So my story started in 1983 in high school. A group of recruiters came to the school saying there's opportunities for the military as a path. And after seeing my sister kind of struggling with college and being at home and not very happy, when they said, be all you can be, it'll be an adventure, I said, I'm in. So I joined in September 1983. I went to boot camp, and then it was history after that. Loved every minute of it. Served 3 years active duty in Germany, Darmstadt, Germany, with the Signal Battalion. I was administration. I worked in S1, which handles all the records, awards, EERs, all kinds of things in that office. Um, Met so many people that are still my friends today. Um, when I got out, um, I wasn't planning on joining the reserves, but they kind of talked me into it, saying you don't have a job, you might as well do 1 weekend a month. Well, 21 years later after that, so 24 total, I'm now considered a veteran. And when I got out, like most women, there wasn't a lot, of direction of where to go. So, like many, I went home, but I didn't want to live in Michigan. So my sister, being close to Cincinnati, I moved there, and never thought 1 minute that I was a veteran or knew what that meant or considered myself a veteran. Didn't know all the benefits or services or anything to reach out to. So I just drove right into finding a job, and I was lucky enough in 1989 getting a job at Toyota. Toyota Motor Manufacturing here in Georgetown was a great fit because they had their alignment with the military was the same. It was all team driven, team leader, group leader, and so on. And that was kind of my path in the reserves. I was going to PLDC and BNOC and ANOC. So it lined up real good, and I just fit in both communities there. And Toyota being a veteran friendly employment, it was just a good fit. So being a veteran, and knowing what a veteran is one of the things that we try to push out there to all these other women who have served. Um, because like me, they don't know they're considered a veteran. And so they don't know what benefits and services are out there for them. So I try to advocate for that. So my last 2 years at Toyota, I was chosen as the Toyota Veterans Advocate, and I belong to the association there. And that was the first time from 2007 to 2018 that I started to learn everything there is about being a veteran and all the other resources like your VSOs, all your veteran service organizations, your nonprofits. So I like to get on the soapbox about making sure everybody knows about the local, state, and federal stages that they can tap into. And so that's kind of been my mission, not knowing what a veteran was, now being a veteran, and now letting everybody else know what it means. And so it's growing pretty good. And I know we'll get to other parts of that, but that's me as all.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. And what you're doing is actually leading us into the next question very well. Is Colonel Owens back on the Zoom? I don't see
let her
I
back
don't
in.
see her
It
yet.
popped up.
I just let her back in.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll let her have a chance to answer the question as well. So,
Oh my.
hi, Colonel Owens, you're back on.
Technology. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Why don't you share a little bit about your story and what being a woman veteran means to you?
Hopefully I won't get it out. Just 30
Yeah, we can hear you.
years
Go ahead.
enlisted, started as a combat. So I think now 30 years. I retired September 2016. And I think what makes us as women veterans not different, but just recognizing that we have different experiences that males do not experience the same way we do. So that distinction, that's tied to like care and policy and support services makes us just slightly different. We treated differently, but we do need to have to go to deal with us as we contribute to taking care of our nation, doing, governance at the local, state, and federal level.
Thank you so much for sharing that part of your story with us, and thank you all for your service. We'll move on to the next question, which is the part where I came into the story. I'm not a veteran, but I was honored to be asked by women veterans to be their advocate. And how we started is they shared their story and they told me, one, why Women Veterans Day was important to them. And two, they educated me on the specific challenges that women veterans face. So I'd like for each of you to talk about, and we'll start with you again, Colonel Owens, each of you to talk about what are the specific challenges that you face as women veterans, and what are some things that policymakers can do to help women veterans and lift them up.
In this community where we have a certain identity, either during service or post service, which makes us long-term veterans, I think for legislatures, we have to look at those support services and realize those are services for lifetime, because we do face unique challenges. I mean, we are resilient, but we have to balance caregiving responsibilities, not just to ourselves and the subordinates, the leaders that we serve, but we tend to feel trauma, navigating in the workplace and assuming the role male traditionally hold. And sometimes people go, well, what makes that different from any other job? And I say in the public sector, that key word of being public, which means we serve everybody. It is, it's not a partisan thing, not a gender thing. It's the thing that says we got to do it all and be it all 24/7, which is different than most jobs. And we give of ourselves, we put that right hand up, and we say we will defend against all enemies and in domestic. And knowing that you kind of have to put yourself, and sometimes friends on a shelf in order to do that. And so policies that protect us, our healthcare systems, programs that benefit us in the long term, our mental health, our sexual reproductive health, that most of the time you don't hear men talk about those kind of things. They think they're going to be there until they're, 102, and they don't always have to make decisions of whether to have family, job, community.
I think she's frozen again. Sergeant Farrat, would you like to go ahead and pick up the story and talk about what
At
you
different
think?
times. They sort of just do a particular community or carry us. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Colonel Owens. Sergeant Farrat, if you'd like to go ahead and pick up the conversation there, what are some things that would mean a lot to you as a woman veteran, as far as policy or societal recognition?
Yeah, as far as recognition, I know a lot of women that have served, they go through similar situations where one, when we talk about a veteran or you think about a veteran, you envision a male always. That's what we've all experienced. And then, of course, that pronoun is always he. What I try to do now is switch that up. Every single person I'm talking about, I try to say she. So some of the challenges also with being a veteran is, like I said, along with recognition, when you're walking with your husband or, another male counterpart and someone sees, maybe you're in a car with your license plate, then the individuals outside are trying to say, hey, thank you, sir, for your service. And I would say my husband has never served in the military. He supports me, but he will quickly, correct them and say, "Hey, no, she did it." So we still struggle with people even visioning that a woman served. And there are so many women who have served in positions that you would never even think of, driving Bradleys and, launching missile, things that they
Right.
think a male would only do. Some things that I would like to see some of our policymakers. One, of course, I work for Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs, and the program that I'm over, the Women Veterans Program, it was established by KRS 40.600. And in that establishment, my one big job is to perform outreach and take that outreach all throughout the state because we want to make sure that women know, and I think Addie mentioned this before, make sure they know they have services and benefits. As a state VA, we have different benefits that are available to them outside of the federal VA. So with that outreach, what I would ask some of the policy makers to do is, collaborate with KDVA and also, if possible, fund the program because it was established through law. That program needs to be funded. And I'm here to say what I do, like we just put on a women's conference and retreat this past weekend. Addie was there. We all had a great time. We got a lot of great feedback. But in order to put that program on, I was scraping pennies,
Right,
So
right.
again, what can be helpful is to make sure that women veterans programs are really funded in order to bring them and make them feel like they are seen and make it feel like, yes, you served and it does, and you deserve every bit of the benefits that you get, just like our male counterparts. Another area what I would talk about is homelessness. We have some women who struggle. Now, black people struggle all the time, but when I'm talking specific to women veterans, they don't have anywhere to go. There is not a shelter or a place that is specific to a woman and a woman who comes with her children or even pets. So there is a big gap right there that we need to help. And then also, I would say, as far as the policymakers, please include women veterans in advisory groups and on boards that talk about specific women veteran needs. It would be very important to have us, people who have served, to be able to give input to that. So,
Thank you so much for that. And again, I want to remind anybody who you're absolutely right about the money. As a former lawmaker, I can say a budget is a statement of values. And while saying thank you for your service is a very nice thing to do for all of our veterans, if you don't fund it, then you're not very thankful for people's service. So it's time that we put the money where the mouth is and start
yes,
to do
ma'am.
that. So absolutely, thank you so much. Sergeant Maddox, would you like to continue?
They both kind of said everything that needs to be said. I agree with both Dina and Lieutenant Colonel Owens that recognition and visibility is a challenge. Like them as stated, you're not always recognized. So, we go around wearing shirts, wearing pins, stating veteran, veteran, and you still won't get recognized. A male wears a hat and they're like thanked and they get their lunch bought and they're recognized everywhere. One time I wore a sash, Woman Veteran of the Year, had all my stuff on. Not one person said anything for hours. Not one person. So I mean, it's real. The struggle there or the challenge is real that we're not really recognized. And not that we want to be, but it is a challenge. um, Healthcare, mental health care, all that. As the VA is getting really better in recognizing these issues, they are doing better, separating women with their different issues that they have when it comes to healthcare. So I feel like if they continue to do that, and I see that they are still doing that every time they build a new VA. So I'm hoping the healthcare will continue to improve like it has been. But there was a big gap for a long time where they didn't even have a separate clinic or anything for just the women veterans. Um, so that is a thing. When it comes to homelessness, that is the nonprofit I work for, Lady Veterans Connect. And Dina mentioned having to have a state program funded. So if you could imagine having a nonprofit where all the volunteers have to go, shake the bushes and boots on the ground trying to just get money. Um, our property sits on 8 acres and we can house up to 32 women veterans who are in transition. And that could be transitioning from a job, state to state, abuse, homelessness. But with the small volunteer group that we have, we're not a mental health care uh, place. We just provide a roof, a safe place to be, people who'll get you connected to the resources and benefits. So this goal is to build tiny homes. So we're going to start phase 1, but just trying to get the funding is crazy. It's really crazy. But we hope to have it done sometime soon. It's a big mission that we're trying to tackle. But the challenges as far as policymakers, like the one that you said you tried to push, is it being permanent for recognizing women veterans? I don't see why it's not a permanent thing. Every year, like Dina faces when she has this event and she wants a proclamation to provide, and get the support of the state, you have to go ask every year.
Right.
Whereas you tried to make it where we didn't have to do that, but hopefully we'll keep trying. And just a note, Adam Moore said he's going to try and help. So I don't know. We'll see
Good
if we can
deal.
we can see if we can get you two together.
Yeah, absolutely. Good deal. And I discovered when I was serving that some of the quiet allies, some of our quiet male allies in the General Assembly were dads of active duty women's service personnel. There were a lot of people who had daughters in the service, and they were like, I don't want it to be so hard for her. And, so certainly if I'd love to work with Representative Moore and help find some of those dads who really want to make sure that their daughters will have all the benefits that are coming to them and that they are properly thanked for their service. And thank you all so much for sharing your perspective. Colonel Owens, would you mind sharing with us what you just put in the chat? 'Cause I think it's a really great point to get out there.
Mhm. It is what Dina said at one point about being a female veteran but not being recognized.
Right.
But her husband was. My husband gets that all the time. And even down to when he went to go buy a car. They didn't talk to me at all initially when we stood on the lot. They immediately to him. And he let them go across the line. Finally he says, first
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
talking to.
And again,
And I did that a lot, even here. Seeing my photos, a lot of times I wear my hat almost 80% of the time.
mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
There you go. There you go. Letting them know. Letting them
Mhm.
know. And at this point, I also want to lift up a woman veteran, distinguished woman veteran who could not join us today because she has many more obligations. But my former seatmate in the General Assembly is Representative Colonel Pam Stevenson, who is also now the House Minority Leader, and she has House duty. She has House duties today. But she was so generous in sharing the stories with me when we sat together and saying
Mhm.
so many of the same things that you all did, and had a distinguished record of service as a prosecutor. She was a JAG lawyer, served in North Africa and the Middle East, and always having to point out to people that she too was a veteran. So again, thanks for sharing that.
Mhm.
Um, we have one commissioner, I believe, who is waiting in the chat. Commissioner Ali, are you still there? I believe she's dropped out. So we've got a little bit more time if there's anything else that you all would like to share before we sign off for today. And if anybody jumps back in, sometimes we have commissioners who come into these conversations and ask our panelists questions. But how about we do one more round from our women veterans, starting with Colonel Owens. Let's get one action item out of today's conversation as we celebrate women veterans. What's one thing we want to make sure that happens between now and the next time we celebrate 364 days from now?
That we celebrate every day and not 364 plus days from now, that we
Yep.
get seen as a regular top.
Right on. Love that. Love that. Uh, Sergeant Farrat?
Yes, I would say signing this day into law because it's so important that everyone understands that women have served and we did a hell of a job. We have always been a voluntary group. My dad was drafted and he did not want to serve, and I look back at how many women, just said, hey, I'll do it. So that day is so important to recognize and make sure our stories live on. Um, so many people, like you've heard us say, just don't recognize that a woman has served. And there's so many things that we've done. We're starting to uncover stories like the Hello Girls, 6888, hearing all these stories that are now coming up. We really need to keep that going. And I know there is the Military Women's Memorial the only living database that exists in the US. So important to register. Every woman can put her story in there, talk about where she served, what her awards are, all of that. And what is so key to that, uncovering more stories that have never been told. And then also for the future, when your great, 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 whoever, daughter, aunt, when they come to DC to see that, can you imagine the history that exists and they get
Yes.
to read it and know it? That is so important. So yes, I would say please make this day stick. Please make it a law because women deserve that. Women that served and said, I will do that, they deserve that. Thank you.
Right on. Oh, thank you. Thank you. You've given us some, great marching orders. Sergeant Maddox?
I totally agree with Dana and Lieutenant Colonel Owens that HB 318 needs to be law. We don't need to keep fighting and asking, can I have another
Right.
proclamation?
Yeah.
So we definitely need that put into law. And I just hope this time next year that we can still continue to say and be proud of how big our group is growing because of people like Dina Perret, like Lieutenant Colonel Owens, like Patty Mentor, who want to make the changes for real. And it takes your time and it takes your money and it takes beating the ground and beating the bushes to make these things happen. And we just want more involvement. And because of the women in Kentucky, and I want to say that it started in 2014 when this group started to grow. And Lindsay Gorgato, she now lives in California, but she was the Woman Veteran of the Year from the Epilepsy Foundation in 2014. She was the first one. She started a 501c3, Athena Sisters, and it grew in popularity real quick in Louisville, but then she couldn't get the funding, so it kind of dismantled. But the starvation of wanting to be together and do things was still there. So then the coordinator position, the woman veterans coordinator position came about. And Luanda, she was the first one, I believe, right? Dina,
Yes.
Luanda, I forget her last name. But she was the first woman veterans coordinator because of French Henry.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, names are
French
escaping.
Henry.
Yeah, Heather French Henry. Yeah.
Yes. And she made that happen. And since then, 2014, all the way to now, which is not that long, it has grown with women coming out of everywhere and forming their own groups, their own lunch groups, their own social media groups, their own travel groups. In Kentucky, I am super proud to even be a little itty bitty part of it to help them grow because when you've heard the stories that we've all heard,
Mhm.
that I was sitting almost contemplating suicide because I got this bad diagnosis. And when I heard about this retreat, I thought it would be good for me. So I went. So we took somebody who was thinking about suicide to now having lots of friends and connections, and now some of them lead some of these lunches and activities. So it is really getting a lot of growth and movement. And I just hope that we can continue to do that.
Oh, you're giving me chills. You're giving me chills. That is exactly why this work matters and why I'm incredibly honored and grateful to share this space with three incredible women veterans today. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, sharing all of the work that you continue to do every day to lift up women veterans. And again, thank you for your service. And I'll tell you all day, every day, thank you for your service. I'll buy your lunch and your dinner and make sure you get that deal on the car that you need. But thank you all
Thank
so
you, ma'am.
much. I'd like to invite Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman to close us out from this powerful conversation today.
Yes, what a great conversation. Thank you all so much for sharing your stories today, for helping us to raise awareness and educate the public on your experiences and what we can do to help make that better. So to To Dina, to Terry, to Addie, thank you for your service. And Patty, thank you for your legislative leadership in this space as well. It takes a village. So thank you all for tuning in today. If you would like to follow the Kentucky Commission on Women, we are on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And then I hope that you will join us in September for our next conversation with commissioners. Thank you again, and we will see you all again soon.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much
Thank you
appreciated.
all.